There comes a moment in every life when God whispers, "Enough." A divine moment when heaven itself begins to move. Without your permission and without your prediction, God starts closing a chapter that has been draining your strength, your peace, and your soul. My friend, when God begins to shut a door, it may sound like loss, but in truth, it's the sound of protection. You may feel like something precious is slipping away, but what's really happening is that God is pulling you out of a season that no longer deserves your energy. Some of you hearing this have been fighting battles already settled by God. You've stayed in rooms where the light went out long ago. You've tried to revive things that God already called finished. You've wept over what was never meant to last. But hear this today, when God closes a chapter, He isn't punishing you. He's positioning you. When God removes what's been draining you, it's because He's preparing to fill you with new strength. There are moments in life when God allows you to see the truth of what's been depleting your spirit. Maybe it's a relationship that has stolen your joy. Maybe it's a job that has buried your purpose. Maybe it's a circle of people who have been pretending to love you, but behind their smiles, they've been pulling you down. And for so long you've asked, "Why, God? Why am I losing them? Why does everything feel like it's falling apart?" But what you thought was a collapse was actually a cleansing. What you thought was rejection was God's redirection. There's something sacred about endings, because only when something ends can something new begin. Only when the book is closed can a new story be written. You see, many of us keep rereading the same chapter, crying over the same pain, rehearsing the same betrayal, revisiting the same disappointment, and we wonder why our hearts are so heavy. But God says, "My child, you can't heal if you keep touching the wound. You can't move forward if you keep looking back. Some of you are holding on to things that God already released you from. You keep praying for people to return when God's mercy removed them. You keep asking for doors to reopen when God Himself shut them. Let me tell you, when God closes a chapter, no force on earth can reopen it. You can beg, you can plead, you can push, but it won't open. Because when God decides a season has expired, it means that staying any longer would destroy you. There are times when the silence of God feels unbearable. When He begins closing doors, it can feel like rejection, isolation, abandonment, but that's not what it is. It's elevation. God is lifting you out of the valley of confusion and into the mountain of clarity. You may not understand it now, but later you'll look back and say, "If God hadn't closed that door, I'd still be stuck there." You see, the draining season you've been in was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. God let you walk through pain so you could grow in power. He allowed people to betray you so you would learn not to depend on them, but to depend fully on Him. He allowed the job, the friendship, the comfort, the familiar to fade away so that your faith could become your foundation. So if God is closing a chapter in your life right now, if you feel the pages turning and the story shifting, don't resist it. Don't mourn it as though your life is over. Because it's not over, it's transforming. You are being moved from survival to revival. God is uprooting what was false to plant what is true. He's cutting off the branch that bore no fruit so new fruit can grow in its place. There are things that drained you so much you forgot what peace felt like. But God is about to restore that peace. There were nights you cried because you couldn't see a way out. But the very tears that soaked your pillow were watering the seeds of your next blessing. When God closes a chapter, He doesn't leave you empty. He closes one because He's writing something new, something pure, deeper, stronger. Some of you thought you were being buried, but you were being planted. The darkness you felt wasn't punishment. It was preparation. God covered you, not to hide you, but to grow you in silence. While you were wondering why no one noticed your efforts, God was shaping your heart. While you were grieving who left, God was making room for who's coming. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine design. There's a time to hold on and there's a time to let go. And when God says, let go, He's not asking for your pain. He's asking for your trust. Because He sees the road ahead, He knows that the chapter you're clinging to can no longer carry the weight of your destiny. God will never allow what's meant for your destruction to remain in your possession. So if something is slipping away, thank Him. If someone is leaving, bless them because they're part of the chapter that's ending, not the one that's beginning. We often pray for new beginnings, but we resist the endings that make them possible. We say, God, open new doors, but we cry when He shuts the old ones. We ask for peace, but we hold on to the people who keep disturbing it. We want joy, but we refuse to release what's poisoning our spirit. My friend, God cannot fill what you refuse to empty. He cannot move you into the new until you've let go of the old. When God closes a chapter, He's not taking something from you. He's taking something off you. The weight, the guilt, the stress, the constant pretending, the forced smiles, all of it was draining you. But God in His mercy said, enough. He saw you growing tired of being strong for everyone. He saw your silent tears when no one else did. He saw your faith trembling under the pressure. And He decided to end the season that was suffocating your spirit. Sometimes what's draining you isn't a person. It's a mindset. It's the belief that you have to fix everything, control everything, prove everything. But God says, you were never meant to carry all of that. You are not the savior of everyone's story. You are not responsible for making people see your worth. The moment you surrender the need to control the outcome is the moment peace begins to enter your heart. God will often close a chapter not because it's bad, but because it's complete. The purpose for that season has been fulfilled. You learned the lesson. You fought the battle. You endured the test. And now, it's time to move. But some of us confuse comfort with calling. We stay because it feels familiar, not because it's fruitful. We cling to what's known even when it's killing our joy. But God loves you too much to let you remain where you no longer belong. He will shake you to awaken you. He will break your routine to build your faith. He will disturb your comfort so you can discover your calling. And sometimes that looks like loss. Sometimes it looks like heartbreak. Sometimes it looks like confusion. But beneath the chaos, God is crafting something beautiful. You just can't see it yet because you're still standing in the ashes of what used to be. When God closes a chapter, the enemy will try to convince you that you've failed. He'll whisper that you've lost everything. But you haven't lost. You've been liberated. You've been set free from what was secretly consuming your energy. You see, the draining season wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to show you what can't go with you into the next. Maybe you've been wondering why certain people suddenly changed, why they turned cold, why they stopped calling, stopped caring, stopped showing up. Let me tell you something. They didn't walk away on their own. God removed them because their part in your story was finished. Keeping them any longer would have corrupted the next season. God isn't cruel. He's careful. He knows what relationships will bless you and which ones will break you. And if you've been losing things lately, people, opportunities, familiar routines, don't panic. You're not cursed. You're being cleared. God is doing some spiritual housekeeping in your life. He's cleaning out what no longer serves your purpose. He's making room for new blessings that require space. You can't carry yesterday's baggage into tomorrow's destiny. It's painful to let go. I know it is. It hurts when chapters close. It hurts when God removes what you once prayed for, but you have to trust that His wisdom sees what your emotions can't. You may not understand why now, but one day when you look back, you'll say, God, thank you for closing that door. Thank you for saving me from what I thought I wanted, because what's coming next will not drain you. It will sustain you. The peace you lost will return double. The strength you thought was gone will rise again. The people who walked away will be replaced with those who value your heart. The love that failed will be replaced with love that stays. The opportunities that slipped away will be replaced with divine connections that no human hand can block. But before that happens, God must finish the closing. And closing means you must stop fighting for what no longer fits. Stop chasing what God has dismissed. Stop trying to reopen the pages God has sealed. There is more ahead, more peace, more power, more purpose. But you have to let God turn the page. I want you to know this truth deep in your soul. God has not forgotten you. He sees the exhaustion behind your smile. He hears the cries you never speak out loud. He knows the heaviness that lingers in your spirit. And that's why He's ending this draining chapter. He's not doing it to hurt you. He's doing it to heal you. He's cutting off what's been depleting your faith so He can fill you with new fire. The same God who closed Noah's ark before the flood began is the same God closing doors in your life right now, not to imprison you, but to protect you from the storm ahead. Some doors had to shut so you could survive what's coming. You didn't lose. It was God's mercy that made sure you didn't stay in harm's way. When God begins to close the chapter that has been draining you, it is not because He has abandoned you. It is because He loves you too deeply to allow you to keep pouring your energy into what no longer gives life. Sometimes the most merciful act of God is not in what He gives, but in what He takes away. It may feel like loss, but it is deliverance. You see, there are chapters that we hold on to not because they are good for us, but because we fear what life will be without them. We cling to the familiar even if it exhausts us because the unknown seems too frightening. But when God intervenes, He doesn't ask for your comfort. He asks for your trust. There are seasons when you are crying out for peace, yet you keep walking back into chaos. You ask God for strength, but you keep surrounding yourself with people who drain it. You pray for clarity, but you refuse to release the confusion. God cannot bless what you refuse to release. That is why sometimes He must step in with divine authority and end what you never had the courage to end yourself. You may think it's over because of a person or a situation, but it was the hand of God that brought it to completion. There comes a point when the heaviness you've been carrying is no longer from the weight of the world, but from resisting God's will. You see, the longer you hold on to what God is trying to remove, the more exhausted your spirit becomes. That's why you feel drained. That's why you've lost your peace. That's why your energy feels like it's leaking out of you day after day, because your spirit is fighting against the direction of God. But when you finally let go, when you finally say, God, I don't understand, but I trust you, something miraculous happens. The weight begins to lift. The air becomes lighter. The peace that was buried under your anxiety begins to rise again. God is not closing this chapter to break your spirit. He's closing it to save your soul. He's rescuing you from people, from habits, from patterns that would have kept you small when He designed you to grow. Some of the very things you've been crying to keep are the same things that have been blocking your blessings. And because you could not see it, God in His mercy had to step in and end it. That's what love looks like from heaven. It doesn't always feel gentle, but it's always right. When God closes a chapter, He's not asking you to understand every reason. He's asking you to walk in faith, because if He explained it all, you'd never need to trust Him. Faith is born in the dark places when you don't know what's next, but you believe God is still working. And make no mistake, He is working, even when you can't see the evidence, even when the silence feels long, even when your heart aches for closure. He's already ahead of you, preparing a table in the next chapter of your life. Some of you are wondering, why did God let me go through all that if He was just going to close the door? The answer is simple growth. You learned something in that painful season that you couldn't have learned any other way. You discovered your strength. You discovered your voice. You discovered that your survival does not depend on anyone else. It depends on the power of God within you. And now, because of what you endured, you are wiser. You are stronger. You are ready. There are people who were meant to be chapters, not the whole book. You keep trying to write them into pages that no longer belong to them. You keep revisiting their absence, replaying what went wrong, reimagining how it could have been. But let me tell you, God saw things you didn't. He heard conversations you never heard. He saw betrayals before they happened. He saw intentions behind the smiles. And because of His divine protection, He said, "That's enough." When God closes a chapter, He is also closing a drain. The things that were secretly draining your strength are being unplugged. The nights you spent in tears, the confusion that clouded your mind, the tension that weighed on your heart, all of it is coming to an end. God is restoring balance to your spirit. He is filling the emptiness with peace, the confusion with clarity, the loneliness with purpose. He is reminding you that your worth was never tied to what you lost. It has always been tied to who He created you to be. And when God decides to close something, He does it thoroughly. He won't just remove the person. He'll remove the attachment. He won't just shut the door. He'll seal it so you won't reopen it because He knows your heart. He knows how you might be tempted to go back when the loneliness sets in, to reach out when the memories resurface. But when God closes something, He makes sure it can't be reopened unless it's by His command. Some of you have been asking God to give you strength to hold on. But the true prayer should be, "God, give me strength to let go." Because sometimes the greatest act of faith isn't clinging tighter, it's releasing sooner. It's saying, "Oh God, even though I don't know what's next, I trust that you do." And that trust is what invites miracles into your life. Let me tell you, when God ends a season, He never leaves you empty-handed. What's coming next is always greater than what's gone. But He cannot pour the new oil until you've emptied the old jar. You cannot carry yesterday's sorrow into tomorrow's blessing. The heart that once cried in pain will soon beat in peace. The hands that once held loss will soon hold abundance. Because God never takes without replacing. He only prunes so that you can bloom again. Do not mistake God's silence for His absence. Sometimes, before God brings you into your new season, He allows a quietness to fall over your life. That silence is not punishment. It's the sacred pause before transformation. It's the space where He rearranges your heart, where He heals the unseen wounds, where He resets your spirit for what's coming next. You think nothing is happening, but the truth is, everything is happening, just not in your view. Every draining chapter carries a lesson written in invisible ink. Only when it's over will you see what God was teaching you. Maybe it taught you resilience. Maybe it taught you discernment. Maybe it taught you how to walk away with grace. Whatever it taught you, remember this: it was never wasted. Not one tear, not one sleepless night, not one heartbreak. God uses it all. He wastes nothing. There will come a moment when the peace returns, and you'll feel lighter, freer, calmer, and you'll realize that's what God was doing all along. He was freeing you from the things you thought you needed. He was restoring you to yourself. He was showing you that you can walk alone and still walk powerfully because you walk with Him. Sometimes the most draining chapters are not about people, but about our own mindset. We can be trapped by our past, haunted by guilt, chained by regrets. We replay old failures, old conversations, old mistakes, and we keep living in yesterday while God is calling us into tomorrow. The chapter that's closing may be your old self, the version of you that apologized too much, the version of you that tolerated disrespect, the version of you that believed you were not enough. God is closing the chapter on that person because it's time for you to step into who you truly are. A soul strengthened by storms, refined by faith, and carried by divine purpose. And hear this truth. The people who left, the opportunities that vanished, the moments that broke you, they were never meant to define your ending. They were meant to define your becoming. You will not end where the pain tried to leave you. You will rise where it tried to bury you. Because God is not just the author of your story, He is also the finisher. And what He finishes perfectly. There are blessings that cannot find you until certain people are gone. There are opportunities that will not appear until certain doors are closed. There are miracles that cannot manifest until certain energies are removed. So, do not resist when God starts moving things out of your way. Every subtraction from your life is divine multiplication in disguise. You're losing numbers, but you're gaining value. You are not cursed. You are being cleared. You are not being rejected. You are being redirected. You are not being forgotten. You are being favored. You are being set apart for something greater. That's why it feels lonely. That's why it feels quiet. That's why it feels uncertain. Because God is isolating you from distractions so He can elevate your discernment. He's bringing you to a place where you no longer seek validation from others, but find your confidence in Him alone. When God closes a draining chapter, it's not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your peace. You'll walk into the next season lighter. You'll wake up with purpose again. You'll smile without forcing it. You'll rest without guilt because God is restoring not only what was lost, but who you were before life tried to drain it out of you. You're stepping into a chapter where peace will not be temporary. It will be constant. Where love will not be conditional. It will be pure. Where your blessings will not require you to exhaust yourself. They will flow naturally because they are aligned with your purpose. You won't have to chase anymore. You won't have to beg anymore. You won't have to prove your worth to anyone anymore because God Himself will make it known. And when that happens, when the new season unfolds, you'll finally understand why God had to close the one before it. You'll see that every ending was protection, every delay was preparation, and every loss was leading you closer to divine peace. You will say, God, I didn't understand it then, but now I see. You were saving me from what was slowly draining my soul. There are moments when the silence after a storm feels louder than the storm itself. You stand in the aftermath of what God has closed. And though peace is promised, you still hear the echo of what used to be. That's when faith must speak louder than memory. That's when trust must be stronger than fear. You see, when God closes a chapter, He doesn't always close it quietly. Sometimes it ends with a thunderclap, with tears, with confusion, with a door that slams so hard, you wonder if you'll ever heal again. But even in that thunder, there is divine intention. God is not cruel. He is cleansing. He is shaking loose the attachments that were slowly suffocating your growth. You may not realize it now, but every draining chapter carries invisible chains, chains of comfort, of dependency, of fear. And God in His mercy begins to break them one by one. He removes the people who only called when they needed something. He ends the situations where your kindness was being exploited. He silences the voices that tried to make you doubt your worth. You see, when God says the chapter is closed, He is not just rearranging your circumstances, He's rewriting your identity. You're not who you were in that season. That person was tired, stretched, overextended. But this new version, this healed, strengthened, reawakened soul is who God has been preparing all along. Do not be afraid of divine separation. Separation is not rejection, it is elevation. God separates you from the wrong so He can connect you to the right. He separates you from the noise so you can hear His whisper again. He separates you from those who drained your spirit so He can surround you with those who will pour into your purpose. Sometimes God will pull you away from the crowd just to remind you that His presence is enough. When you learn to find comfort in His company alone, you'll never again be at the mercy of anyone's approval. We often ask God for strength, but we rarely understand that strength comes from surrender. You cannot receive new power until you release old pain. You cannot hold new blessings until you let go of the burdens you've been carrying. God cannot pour fresh water into a jar still filled with the bitterness of yesterday. That's why He closes chapters, because He knows what you refuse to release will eventually rot your spirit. He must remove it before it poisons your peace. Some of you have been living in emotional droughts, trying to survive on memories that no longer nourish your soul. You keep reaching back to what once made you happy, but now only leaves you empty. God will not let you keep drinking from a well He has already declared dry. That's why things are no longer working. That's why the people who once comforted you now drain you. That's why the same places that once inspired you now irritate you. God is making you uncomfortable in spaces you've already outgrown. You can't fit into that old chapter anymore. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you evolved. When a new season calls your name, the old one becomes too small to contain your purpose. God begins to stretch your vision, shift your desires, and renew your appetite for something higher. What once satisfied you now feels meaningless because God is preparing you for greater things. The dissatisfaction you feel isn't failure, it's divine stirring. It's God's way of saying there is more. Don't settle here. Some of you are afraid to step forward because you can't see what's ahead. But remember, God never asked you to understand His plan. He asked you to trust it. Faith isn't knowing where you're going. Faith is knowing who's guiding you. The same God who led you out of what was draining you will lead you into what will sustain you. The chapter closing behind you isn't a punishment. It's proof that you're ready for what's next. You've been through enough to know that pain doesn't last forever. The storm may roar, but it cannot rain forever. The tears may fall, but they will not flood your destiny. The confusion may cloud your mind, but it cannot cancel your calling. Every ending carries within it the seed of a beginning. And when God is the author, that beginning is always better than what was lost. You just have to trust that the hands that are writing your story are stronger than the pain that tried to erase it. God's way of elevation often looks like isolation. When He starts to bless you, He first separates you. He removes you from distractions. He quiets the noise around you so that you can hear the still, small voice that directs your next move. It may feel like you've been forgotten, but in truth, You've been set apart. Hidden not because you're worthless, but because you're precious. A diamond doesn't shine in the open. It's formed in darkness under pressure. And that's what God has been doing. He's been shaping you, refining you, preparing you for a season where you will not need to chase light because you will become light. And when you finally step into that new season, you'll understand why the draining one had to end. You'll realize that if God had let it continue, you would have lost yourself. Sometimes God must let something end abruptly so you don't sink gradually. He'll tear you away from what's toxic before it can destroy your peace. He'll remove what was never meant to stay so that your destiny isn't delayed. That's not cruelty. That's compassion. You see, there is a divine order to every event in your life. The pain that confused you, the silence that tested you, the ending that wounded you, all of it was part of God's orchestration. Nothing was random. Every chapter, even the painful ones, served a purpose. They taught you how to pray, how to wait, how to stand. They stripped away your pride and replaced it with patience. They tore away false attachments and replaced them with faith. God has been sculpting your soul through every storm, not to break you, but to build you. And now, as He closes this chapter, it's not just the end of something, it's the unveiling of someone. The you that was hidden beneath years of striving and exhaustion is finally emerging. The one that knows how to rest in God's timing, that walks with quiet confidence, that no longer begs for peace, but lives in it. That's who is rising now. You've carried your burdens long enough. God is taking them from your hands so you can finally lift them in gratitude instead of desperation. Do not fear what's fading. The things leaving your life are not taking your purpose with them. What's meant for you cannot leave you. What's gone was never meant to stay. The blessing that belongs to you will find you, even if it has to travel through loss, through time, through tears. The doors God opens for you will never require you to compromise your peace to keep them open. Sometimes the most powerful prayer you can pray in a season like this is simply, God, close every door not meant for me. And when you do, you must be ready to accept His answer, because He will close doors you thought you needed. He will silence voices you thought were essential. He will remove hands you thought would always be there. But every subtraction is an act of mercy, not punishment. He is not taking away to hurt you. He is taking away to heal you. God does not remove what is meant for your destiny. He removes what's meant for your destruction. That's why you can trust Him even when it hurts. That's why you can praise Him even when you don't understand. Because His plan is always layered with wisdom you can't yet see. When He closes a chapter, it is not the loss of your story, it is the preservation of your soul. The peace you've been longing for is not in the past, it's in the release. When you let go, you make room for restoration. When you stop resisting, you start receiving. And when you finally surrender, God steps in fully. You will look back one day and see how He used every ending as a setup for your rebirth. You will see that the pain that drained you was the very force that pushed you into purpose. When God closes a chapter in your life, it is not a punishment, it is protection. It is the hand of the Almighty guarding you from what you cannot yet see. Sometimes the very thing you are begging God to keep open is the very thing that has been stealing your peace, your purpose, and your power. You have cried over it, prayed for it, fought for it, but God in His mercy says no more. He is shutting the door that has drained your spirit because He has seen the toll it has taken on your heart. God is not taking something from you to harm you. He is taking it so that He can heal you. There are chapters that have been written in tears, and God is saying you don't have to reread this page anymore. I am the author of your story, and I am writing something new. Some of you have stayed too long in what God has already ended. You are trying to keep alive what God has already pronounced finished. But hear this truth. When God says it is over, no amount of effort can keep it alive. You can pour your energy into it. You can pray over it. You can cry about it. But if God has declared the end, it will not rise again. Not because God is cruel, but because He is wise. He knows that your destiny cannot flourish in the soil of yesterday. He knows that your future cannot grow in the same place that once drained your soul. God will never build your next blessing on a broken foundation. Sometimes He must remove what you think you need so He can replace it with what will truly strengthen you. When you feel God closing a chapter, you will often feel resistance. You will feel discomfort. You will sense that something within you is shifting, that you no longer belong where you once felt comfortable. That is not confusion. It is divine transition. God is moving you. You may not see where He is leading you, but you can be sure that He is not leading you into emptiness. He is leading you into peace. You see, peace is the sign that you are walking with God. The moment you stop feeling drained and start feeling still, that is the sign that the closing was divine. That is how God works. He may take away what was loud, but He will replace it with what is lasting. There are times when God will close a chapter by removing people. You will wonder why certain relationships suddenly fade, why those you trusted grow distant, why the ones you counted on begin to walk away. Don't chase what God has released. Don't cling to those who have completed their purpose in your life. People are seasons, and not all are meant to stay forever. Some come to teach you, some come to test you, and some come to transform you. Once their role is done, God will move them, not out of cruelty, but out of care for your growth. Stop crying over who left and start thanking God that He made room for who's next. God never subtracts without the intention to multiply later. Sometimes God will close a chapter by shaking your comfort zone. The job that felt secure may suddenly end. The place you loved may no longer feel right. The plan you built your life around may begin to crumble. But when everything feels like it's falling apart, God is not destroying you. He is realigning you. You prayed for a breakthrough, but sometimes the breakthrough comes disguised as a breakdown. You prayed for growth, but growth often comes through being uprooted. The soil of comfort rarely produces greatness. So when God disrupts your comfort, it is because He wants to strengthen your character. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and say, "Thank you, God, for closing that chapter. I didn't know it then, but you were protecting my purpose." There are also chapters God closes because you have outgrown them. The version of you that once fit there no longer exists. You have matured. You have prayed harder. You have learned more. You have walked through valleys and survived storms. And now that old place no longer matches the person you've become. You may feel out of place, but that's the signal that God is calling you higher. When an eagle grows, it no longer fits in the nest. The same wings that once rested there now need the sky. That's you. God is calling you to soar above what once contained you. The chapter that's closing isn't your end. It's your elevation. Let me tell you something powerful. When God closes a chapter, He will often do it quietly. No announcement, no warning, no explanation. Suddenly, you will just know that something has changed. That inner peace you once had about that situation will disappear. That energy to keep trying will fade. That motivation to keep pushing will dry up, and you'll wonder what's wrong. But nothing's wrong. God has withdrawn His presence from that chapter because His will has moved on. The grace that once sustained it is gone because His plan has shifted. You can't bring life to something God has left behind. When His hand moves, move with it. If you stay, you'll feel empty. If you obey, you'll feel peace. Many of you are tired because you are trying to keep open what God has closed. You're forcing conversations that drain you. You're chasing opportunities that no longer bless you. You're holding on to habits that no longer serve you. But God is saying, let go, my child. You are carrying a burden that I never asked you to carry. The weight of unfinished chapters is heavy. But when you surrender it to God, you will feel light again. Because peace is not found in control. It's found in surrender. When you stop fighting for what God has ended, you make room for what He is beginning. Sometimes God will close a chapter by making you uncomfortable in places that once felt peaceful. You'll start to feel restless. Your spirit will sense that something isn't right anymore. That is not the enemy. That's God stirring your spirit to move. If you ignore that stirring, life will grow heavy and your joy will fade. God uses discomfort as a signal that transition is near. He will make what once felt right feel wrong. What once brought peace now brings unease. He does this so you don't settle for less than what He has prepared for you. The discomfort you feel is not punishment. It's preparation. God is preparing you for something that requires a new mindset, a stronger faith, and a deeper trust. And hear this, God will never close one chapter without already writing the next. You may not see it yet, but the ink of His next move is already on the page. You might think you've lost something, but God never ends without a purpose. Every ending with God is a transition to a better beginning. When you lose something in obedience to Him, you haven't lost. You've sown. And whatever you sow in faith will return in a harvest greater than you imagined. That's how God works. He takes away temporary things to prepare you for eternal gain. He removes what drains you to fill you with what sustains you. There's a truth you must hold on to. God's no is just as powerful as His voice. When He says no, He is protecting you from unseen pain. When He closes a door, He is saving you from hidden destruction. When He delays something, He is aligning it with the right time. Stop interpreting God's silence as rejection. Sometimes His silence is strategy. He is working in ways your eyes cannot see, in realms beyond your understanding. The chapter may be closing, but the author is still writing. You may not understand the story yet, but one day it will make perfect sense. My friend, when God closes a chapter that's been draining you, it's not to break you, it's to bless you. It's His way of saying, you have cried enough tears here. You have fought enough battles in this place. It's time to move forward. God does not end anything in your life without a divine reason. Every closure, every silence, every separation carries purpose. You may not see it now, but God has already seen what's ahead of you. And He knows that this ending is not your defeat, it's your deliverance. Do not look back in regret. Do not cling to what has already faded. When you keep turning back to old pages, you cannot see the new story God is writing. He is not asking you to understand everything. He's asking you to trust Him through it. Trust that what He is removing has served its time. Trust that what feels painful now will later prove to be a blessing in disguise. Trust that His wisdom is greater than your emotions and His plan far greater than your understanding. There are moments when you'll feel the ache of what's gone. The memories may return. The longing may rise again, but remind yourself, God closed that door because it was draining your strength, your peace, and your spirit. You can't carry yesterday's pain into tomorrow's promise. Let it go and let God rebuild what was broken. Because once He removes what has been weighing you down, He will lift you to heights you never thought you could reach. You must understand, God is not closing this chapter to leave you empty. He is closing it to make room for something better, something divine, something that will not drain you but sustain you. The very hand that once took from you will be the same hand that gives back. The same voice that once said, "Enough," will soon whisper, "Now it's time." God hasn't finished His work in you. He's preparing you for a new beginning that will bring meaning to every ending you faced. So lift your head, dry your tears, and thank Him for the closure that once confused you, because one day you'll see that was the moment your spirit was set free. The peace you're about to feel will testify that it was God's plan all along. The doors that open next will not ask you to suffer. They will invite you into your purpose. And with your own eyes, you'll witness how everything God shuts, He replaces with something far greater than you ever dreamed. Let your heart settle in that truth. God is ending the chapter that has been draining you so He can begin the one that will define you. Stop resisting. Stop worrying. Start believing. Because when God authors your story, every ending births a beginning. Every loss carries a lesson, and every closed chapter unfolds into a greater destiny. My friend, hear me closely. What you're about to receive is no coincidence. If these words have reached you, it's because heaven orchestrated this very moment. God has prepared something so extraordinary for you that it will leave you in awe. The same God who formed the stars, who owns every ounce of gold and silver, is preparing to release unexpected provision into your life. The season of scarcity is coming to a close, and the gates of divine supply are swinging wide open. You might not understand how it will unfold. You might not know the path it will take. But listen well is not confined by your paycheck, by the economy, by politics, or by your bank balance. He is unlimited. God. He can raise up blessings from places you never imagined. He can use strangers, opportunities, or even what seemed like a loss to turn into a financial miracle. God is moving behind the scenes to surprise you with His goodness. You might be standing in a place where the bills are piling up, where your income looks too small, where everything in your life feels like it's drying up. You've prayed, you've waited, and you've wondered when your breakthrough will come. But let me declare to you, the moment of divine release is near. God has seen your faithfulness, your struggle, your quiet endurance, and your refusal to give up. You didn't quit when things got tough. You kept believing. You kept praying. You kept trusting even when others mocked your faith. That kind of trust does not go unnoticed. That kind of faith stirs heaven to move. When you least expect it, God will surprise you. Money that was held up will be released. Opportunities that were closed will reopen. A door you thought was locked forever will suddenly swing wide. The resources of heaven are shifting toward your name. You see, when God decides to bless someone financially, He does not need permission. He does not check your qualifications, your connections, or your background. When He says it is time, even the natural laws must obey Him. God can put your name on the heart of a person who owes you nothing. He can make a business deal fall through for someone else just to make room for you. He can position you at the right place, at the right time, to receive what is already yours in His plan. There is no shortage in heaven. There is no economic crisis in God's kingdom. The same God who fed Elijah by the ravens, who brought water from a rock, who sent manna from heaven, is still the same today. God never changes. What He did before, He can do again. And this time, He will do it for you. Don't let your mind limit what God can do. Sometimes we look at our circumstances and start to reason, start to calculate, start to fear. But God does not operate by human logic. His ways are higher. His timing is perfect. The funds that are about to locate you will not come through normal means. They will come in such a supernatural way that you will know it could only be God. It will be so unusual, so unexpected, so timely that your heart will fall to its knees in gratitude. God wants you to know that He is your source, not your job, not your family, not your effort. He is the one who brings increase. He is the one who multiplies what seems too small. When you put your trust in Him, He becomes responsible for your provision. Some of you have been living in the season of not enough. You've been surviving when you should be thriving. You've been praying for daily bread when God wants to bring you into a land flowing with abundance. But sometimes before the overflow comes, God tests your heart. He allows certain shortages to teach you dependence. He watches how you handle little before He releases much. If you remain faithful in the little, the much is on its way. Do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. God's timing is not late. It is divine. The funds are already prepared. They are already on their way. They're traveling through channels you cannot see. God is rearranging people, circumstances, and events to make sure that what belongs to you finds you. You don't have to chase it. It will locate you. There is something powerful about divine timing. God never releases a blessing before you are ready to handle it. He may delay not to punish you, but to protect you, because what is coming is not just money. It is responsibility. It is provision with purpose. God is not sending these funds just for you to spend. He is sending them for you to build, to bless, to advance His purpose on earth. When you receive what He's sending, remember that it is not just a reward, it is a trust. He's giving it to you because He knows your heart will honor Him with it. So prepare yourself, clean your motives, align your heart. Make sure that when the blessing arrives, it finds you ready and humble. The blessing of God is never meant to destroy. It is meant to elevate you into a higher realm of purpose. Sometimes God hides provision in strange places. Think about it. He sent Elijah to a widow who had nothing. He told her to use her last meal, and then the oil never ran dry. God multiplied what looked impossible. That's how He works. You may be in a place right now where everything looks empty, but God is about to multiply what is in your hand. You may not even have much, but that little is about to become a seed that produces more than you imagine. God loves to use small beginnings to reveal His greatness. You think you're at the end of your rope, but you're actually standing at the doorway of a miracle. That's why the struggle intensified. It was a sign that something big was about to break. When the night is darkest, the morning is closest. When your resources run out, God's resources step in. Don't underestimate the power of expectation. God responds to faith that refuses to die. When you wake up in the morning, expect favor. When you go to bed at night, thank God in advance. Speak it out loud. Funds are locating me. Provision is coming to me. God's abundance is finding me. Your words have power. They shape your atmosphere. The moment you begin to align your speech with God's promise, heaven begins to respond. You must stop speaking lack and start speaking faith. Stop saying, "I can't afford it," and start saying, "God will provide it." Stop saying, "It's impossible," and start saying, "With God, all things are possible." The tongue can either open or close the doors of blessing. Use it to open them. Many people think that money is evil. No, money is not evil. Greed is. Money is simply a tool in the hands of a righteous person. It becomes a weapon for good. It feeds the hungry, shelters the poor, supports the weak, and builds what glorifies God. That is why God wants to trust you with more. But He must see that your heart values the giver more than the gift. If your eyes remain on God, you can handle wealth without letting wealth handle you. He will not give you something that will pull you away from Him. That's why some blessings delay until your spirit matures. When your heart is right, the funds will find you without delay. Some of you are about to receive funds you didn't work for: refunds, returns, compensation, inheritance, or unexpected kindness. God is setting things in motion that you know nothing about. Someone somewhere is being moved right now to remember you. They may have forgotten you for years, but suddenly your name will come to their mind. A company may have ignored your request, but suddenly they will call you back. A deal that went cold may suddenly come alive again. God has a way of stirring hearts, shifting decisions, and reversing outcomes. He can move through systems, through people, through nature itself to fulfill His word. The funds you need are not lost. They are simply being redirected to arrive at the right time. When you are walking in divine favor, you don't have to beg. You just believe. You don't have to chase. You just stay in position. Faith keeps you aligned. Gratitude keeps the flow open. The moment you start complaining, you block what God is trying to release. So even when you don't see results yet, keep praising. Praise before the funds arrive. Worship before the doors open. Rejoice before the phone call comes. That is how faith operates. It celebrates before manifestation. And when God sees that kind of faith, He accelerates the blessing. The delay shortens. The process speeds up because faith and gratitude are magnets for divine resources. Let me tell you something powerful. God often blesses people through obedience that seems small. Maybe He told you to give when you didn't have much. Maybe He told you to forgive someone who hurt you. Maybe He told you to sow into a cause that didn't make sense. Those small acts open large doors. Every time you obey God, you unlock favor. Every act of obedience releases a chain reaction in the spiritual realm. You cannot outgive God. You cannot outbless Him. Whatever you release in obedience, He multiplies back into your life. You think you lost something, but God is preparing a harvest far greater than what you sowed. That is how divine economics works. It multiplies what the world counts as loss. Some of you have been crying in secret because of financial pressure. You've tried everything, but nothing seems to move. I want you to know God has heard those tears. Your pain has not been wasted. Every tear was a seed. Every sleepless night was noticed. Every act of faith was recorded. God is faithful to remember. He is faithful to reward. He is not blind to your struggle. You are closer to your breakthrough than you think. The same God who turned water into provision for the thirst in the wilderness will turn your emptiness into overflow. Do not fear. Do not panic. God will show up right on time. You may be at the edge, but God specializes in last-minute miracles. He waits until it looks impossible, so that only He gets the glory. There will be people who won't understand how you suddenly started prospering. They'll wonder how you did it. They'll look for your secret, but they won't find it because your source is not visible. Your source is divine. God is about to bless you in such a way that it silences doubt. Those who thought you were finished will see that you were only being prepared. The funds that are coming will not only sustain you, but also lift you. God is about to move you from surviving to thriving, from borrowing to lending, from scarcity to surplus. You will no longer chase opportunities. They will chase you. You will no longer struggle for what's yours. What's yours will find you. The blessing will come to your doorstep because heaven has already signed the release order in your name. And when it comes, don't hide it. Use it to bless others. Use it to show that God still provides. Use it to be a light. God doesn't bless you just for you. He blesses you so that you can become a blessing. He wants His goodness to flow through you. That's why it's called a blessing. It's meant to move. If you hold it, it stops. If you release it, it multiplies. So when the funds locate you, remember this truth. Giving keeps the river flowing. The more you pour out, the more God pours in. You will never lack when your heart is generous, because the hand that gives is the hand that receives. God never lets a giver go empty. Your breakthrough may not look like what you imagined. It may come in the form of a new idea, a business opportunity, a promotion, or even a sudden favor from someone unexpected. Don't limit how God wants to bless you. Stay open, stay alert, stay in faith. God has 1,000 ways to send one blessing. You just need to be in position mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Worry pushes blessings away. Faith pulls them closer. The more you trust, the faster they flow. That is the law of divine supply. My friend, there are moments in life when everything seems silent, when it feels as though heaven has closed its doors and your prayers are bouncing back unanswered. You begin to wonder if God has forgotten you, if perhaps your cries were too small to be heard. But I tell you, God never forgets. God never overlooks. God is not late. He is deliberate. Every waiting season has a purpose. Every delay is a design. When God withholds, it is not rejection. It is preparation. You are being refined for the blessing that is coming. You see, sometimes God will hold back funds, not because He cannot give, but because He is building something deeper inside. You trust humility and wisdom so that when the funds come, you are not destroyed by what was meant to lift you. When God sends unexpected provision, it comes with divine precision. He never misses the target. The blessing will locate you in the exact moment you need it most, and not a second too soon. You may think you are running out, but God is planning a turnaround that will surprise you. When your strength is gone, His supply begins. When your plans collapse, His plan unfolds. You see, God works in silence before He announces His miracles. The funds that are about to reach you are already moving through invisible channels. People are being instructed by divine thought. Systems are being realigned. Opportunities are being orchestrated. What looks still to you is active in the spiritual realm. God is the master strategist. He knows how to deliver what you need without noise, without confusion, and without mistake. The mistake many people make is thinking that provision is always material, but divine funding is more than money. It is support. It is access. It is favor. God can fund your dream with an idea, a connection, or a door you didn't even know existed. He can send someone to cross your path who holds the key to your next season. He can give you wisdom that produces wealth greater than any check. Do not limit God to currency. His wealth is in opportunities, in timing, in influence, in divine connections. The funds that are locating you may not only fill your hands, they will expand your territory. God is not only sending something to you, He is preparing to move something through you. You will become a vessel of provision, a distributor of blessings, a channel of His abundance. But here's what you must understand, Rolf. Divine funds require divine stewardship. When God blesses you, He watches what you do with it. Will you hoard it in fear, or will you release it in faith? Will you build your own name, or will you honor His? Every coin that comes from heaven carries a mission. It is not random. It is sacred. It is meant to strengthen your life so you can strengthen others. When you recognize that everything you have comes from God, you stop worrying about losing it, because what comes from Him cannot be taken by men. You begin to live with open hands, hands that give freely, hands that bless others, hands that trust that whatever leaves your hand never leaves your life. It simply moves into your future, multiplied and transformed. Do not despise the small blessings, for every small blessing is a sign that greater is coming. Sometimes God sends a small portion first to test your gratitude. If you thank Him for little, you qualify for much. Gratitude is the gateway to overflow. Complaining closes the door, but praise opens it wide. Even when the amount looks small, lift your hands and say, God, I see you. Because the moment you acknowledge His hand in the little, He releases His hand in the much. God will never release abundance into an ungrateful heart. Gratitude keeps the flow alive. The more you recognize Him as your source, the more He multiplies your supply. You may look around and say, I have no one to help me. But remember, when you have God, you have more than enough. You don't need everyone to like you. You just need one move of God to change everything. God can use even your enemies to bless you. He can turn those who rejected you into messengers of your miracle. He can take what was meant to harm you and convert it into provision for your future. The same pit that others dug for your downfall will become the well that sustains you. That's the mystery of divine favor. It turns opposition into opportunity, scarcity into supply, weakness into wealth. What the enemy meant for evil, God always turns for good. Now let me speak to your spirit. Stop worrying about the how. God will handle the how. Your job is to believe, to prepare, to position yourself. You cannot receive divine funds with a doubtful heart. Doubt drains faith. Fear cancels expectation. But when you stand firm, when you say, God, I trust you even when I don't understand you, then heaven releases abundance that defies explanation. You may not know when or where, but you can be sure that it will come. Because God never makes a promise He does not intend to keep. You know, His word never returns void. It accomplishes what He sent it to do. And right now, His word concerning your provision is in motion. You have been sowing in tears, but you are about to reap in joy. You have been faithful in dry seasons, and now the rain is coming. The drought of your finances is about to end. You are moving from the wilderness to the land of enough, and from enough to the land of more than enough. God is releasing not just survival, but abundance. The kind of abundance that restores what you lost, that repairs what was broken, that pays off what was overdue. God is going to clear your debts, not just to ease your burden, but to free your spirit. Because debt ties the hands of faith, but provision releases your worship. You're about to breathe again, live again, and give again. The same God who sustains the universe without visible support will sustain you in ways that will make others wonder. You may think that blessing others is for the wealthy, but I tell you, those who bless are made wealthy. Generosity is not the result of abundance. It is the seed that produces abundance. When you give, you trigger a law that cannot be broken. God Himself watches over those who give from the heart. The funds that are locating you are not just for you to keep. They are meant to keep moving. The more you give, the more He trusts you. The more He trusts you, the more He releases. This is why some people live in constant flow. They've learned to live with open hands. They don't block the river. They keep it moving. God is about to trust you with that same kind of flow. A steady, unstoppable, divine supply that never runs dry. Sometimes God allows you to reach the edge of lack so that you may finally realize that He is your source. When all human help fails, divine help arrives. When all doors close, heaven's gate opens. When all strategies fall apart, His plan stands tall. God loves to show His power when you least expect it. He will make something out of nothing just to remind you that He alone is God. You will soon look back and say, I don't know how it happened, but I know who did it. Because when the funds locate you, you will recognize the fingerprint of God all over it. No one will be able to take credit for it. It will be pure, undeniable, divine intervention. They are funds that have your name written on them. Funds you didn't even know existed. Lost opportunities are being restored. Misplaced inheritances are being redirected. Delayed payments are being released. Forgotten promises are being remembered. God is calling back what belongs to you. Every withheld blessing, every overdue harvest, every blocked resource, it's all being freed right now in the unseen realm. And soon you will see the results in your hand. What was held back will rush towards you. What was denied will be delivered. What was closed will open because God's hand cannot be stopped. But remember this, provision must always lead to purpose. If the blessing doesn't draw you closer to God, it will distract you from Him. So as you receive, stay humble, stay grounded, stay connected to your source. The same God who gives can multiply. The same God who multiplies can sustain. As long as your eyes remain on Him, your resources will never run dry. He will teach you how to manage wealth without worshiping it. He will show you how to live blessed without becoming boastful. And He will use your story to inspire others that God still provides for those who trust Him completely. Right now there are angels of provision moving on your behalf. Doors are opening. People are being moved. Ideas are being awakened. Divine timing is aligning. You will soon witness what it means when heaven funds a destiny. God is sending more than money. He's sending peace, wisdom, stability, and growth. He's not just blessing your pocket. He's blessing your mind, your home, your work, and your influence. Because when God blesses, He blesses completely. He touches every area connected to you. That's how you know it's divine, it's whole, it's lasting, it's peaceful. There are moments when God will strip away your visible sources just to show you that He is your invisible supply. He will allow your usual channels to dry up so that you may discover that your sustenance never depended on them. It depended on Him. When one door closes, it is not a signal of defeat, but a divine redirection. God is simply changing the method, not the promise. He may remove your comfort to reveal your calling. He may empty your hands to fill your heart with a higher trust. Because when your dependency shifts from people to God, you unlock a level of provision that human hands can never reach. The world gives according to effort, but God gives according to faith. And when faith rises, supply follows. There are funds assigned to every season of your life, but they can only be released when your spirit is ready to receive them. God will not send abundance into immaturity. He will not fund a heart that cannot handle increase. That's why some people stay in a cycle of just enough because their faith has not matured beyond survival. But you who have walked through storms, you who have held on to faith when everything around you fell apart, you are being prepared for overflow. God has seen the discipline of your waiting, the tears behind your prayers, the patience you've carried when others would have quit, and now He says, it is time. You are entering a season of divine release. The heavens are opening and what was stored up is being poured out. You see, the funds that are locating you are not random. They are signed. God is a God of order. Every blessing has a destination. Every provision has a purpose. What is coming your way is not meant for waste, but for wonder. It's not meant for pride, but for progress. God is about to fund your purpose, not your pleasure. He is not blessing your comfort. He is blessing your calling. Because when God provides, He does it with divine accuracy, giving you exactly what you need to fulfill the purpose He designed for you. The resources coming your way aren't meant to satisfy greed, but to ignite greatness. You're about to learn that true heavenly wealth isn't measured by luxury. It's measured by legacy. God funds vision, not vanity. And when your path aligns with His purpose, provision will flow without force. Many never experience divine abundance because they limit God to what their eyes can see. They believe Him only for survival, but not for expansion. They pray for daily bread, yet never plant in expectation of a harvest. But when you believe that God can exceed your expectation, you give Him permission to enlarge your territory. You begin to live with bold prayers, with fearless faith, with open expectation. You stop asking for small blessings and start declaring large ones. You stop begging for provision and start walking in assurance because you understand that the God who made the stars does not struggle to meet your needs. The one who feeds the birds of the sky can surely fill your hands. The one who commands the wind and the rain can command opportunities and funds to find you. Let your spirit rise above fear. Fear is the greatest thief of divine supply. Fear says, what if it doesn't happen? Faith says, it's already done. Fear paralyzes the blessing. Faith activates it. God never responds to panic. He responds to trust. When you remain calm in uncertainty, it is a sign that you know who your provider is. The world may shake, the markets may fall, the systems may fail, but the economy of heaven never crashes. God's resources never devalue. His storehouses never run dry. The supply of God is infinite, and the moment your trust aligns with His will, He releases what belongs to you. This is why peace is the foundation of prosperity. A peaceful heart attracts divine funding, while a fearful one repels it. Listen carefully. There are ideas planted in your mind by God Himself that carry the seed of your provision. Some of you are sitting on divine blueprints disguised as thoughts. You've ignored them because they seem too simple, too ordinary. But God often hides extraordinary miracles in ordinary ideas. That concept you dismissed may be the very thing He intends to bless. The funds that are locating you might not only come as money, they might come as inspiration, innovation, or invention. God funds creativity. He releases wisdom that leads to wealth. The same God who gave knowledge to build ships, tools, and nations is the one who will whisper divine strategies into your spirit. When you listen and act, you become a magnet for resources. Be careful not to compare your journey to others. The way God blesses you may not look like the way He blesses someone else. Some receive instantly, others receive gradually. Some get financial increase, others receive influence that attracts increase. But in every case, the source remains the same. When you focus on the channel, you miss the provider. Keep your eyes on God, not on men, not on systems, not on the timeline. God's timing is never late. It's simply different. When you trust His schedule, you will never feel behind, because the moment He decides to move, years of delay can be reversed in a day. One act of favor can compensate for decades of waiting. God is a redeemer of time and a restorer of resources. And let me tell you this truth. Sometimes God funds you through correction. Yes, correction is a form of blessing. When He removes what drains you, He is making room for what sustains you. When He shuts one door, He is saving you from disaster. Some relationships, some habits, some commitments have been stealing your divine provision. When God cuts them off, it's not loss, it's protection. You may feel empty for a moment, but soon you'll realize He cleared the space for something greater. Every divine removal prepares the way for divine release. When your environment is purified, your blessings can find you without obstruction. Do not let guilt block your flow. Many people disqualify themselves from blessings because they believe they fail too much to deserve anything good. But hear this, God does not fund you because of your perfection. He funds you because of your potential. He looks at what you can become, not what you were. When He sees a heart willing to change, He releases what is needed for transformation. The funds that are coming are not a reward for your past. They are an investment in your future. God is not just blessing you. He is rebuilding you. He's saying, I still trust you with increase. I still trust you with purpose. I still trust you with provision. That's how merciful God is. He gives even when we feel unworthy, so that we may learn what true mercy looks like. When the funds locate you, don't rush to announce it. Move in silence until the blessing takes root, because not everyone around you can handle your elevation. Some will celebrate you, others will question you, and a few will envy you. But none of that matters, because when God blesses, no one can curse. When God funds, no one can block. The signature of heaven is final. No human hand can cancel it. Stay humble, stay wise, and stay focused. The same God who provided can also protect. The blessing He sends comes with covering. And when He elevates you, He equips you to sustain it. There are funds waiting for you in the unseen. Some are tied to promises spoken long ago. Some are hidden in unexpected places, waiting for the moment of your obedience. You don't need to chase them. They are chasing you. God has already set the coordinates. He knows exactly where you'll be when they arrive. So live ready. Prepare your heart, your home, your plans as if it's already done. Because when faith meets preparation, manifestation follows. God doesn't send funds to the unready. He sends them to the expectant, to those who've cleared space for His blessing to dwell. And when the unexpected arrives, don't forget the one who made it happen. Many people pray when they lack, but few praise when they receive. Gratitude after the blessing ensures the flow continues. God doesn't just want to bless you once. He wants to establish a pattern of favor. He wants you to live in constant evidence of His provision. And that happens when you remember the source. When your first thought after increase is thank you, God, you secure your next blessing before it even arrives. Gratitude is the currency of heaven. It opens what effort cannot. There are moments in life when you will stand at the edge of lack and wonder, how will I make it through? But that is exactly where God does His greatest work. It is in the place of emptiness that His abundance begins to flow. God has never needed a bank, a paycheck, or a wealthy relative to bless you. When He decides to move on your behalf, He can send provision from sources you have never imagined. You may be down to your last coin, but God can stir the heart of someone across the world to release a blessing into your hand. You may not even know their name, but God knows both yours and theirs, and He can connect you at the appointed hour. When God declares that unexpected funds are locating you, it means that your situation is being seen in heaven. It means that the divine record keeper has opened your book and written, "Now is the time." You must understand that when God speaks, His word sets movements into motion. Somewhere something begins to shift. Someone begins to feel a divine nudge. A company may suddenly remember a refund they owe you. A forgotten investment may suddenly resurface. A door that was locked may suddenly swing open. When God moves, natural laws bow to His command. God is not bound by human timelines. He is not limited by what you can see. He is the Creator who calls what is not as though it were. If He can command ravens to bring food to His servant in the wilderness, He can command wealth to find its way to you. You might not have the qualification. You might not have the influence. But if you have faith, you have what heaven honors. The funds may not come through the path you expect, but when God ordains increase, it will reach you in ways that prove He alone did it. Some of you are in a season where you've given, prayed, waited, and nothing seems to move. You've watched others advance while you stayed in the same place. But listen, delay is not denial. God uses time as a tool, not a punishment. Sometimes He withholds the blessing until your heart is prepared to carry it. Sometimes He lets you walk through the valley so that when the funds come, pride will not. God wants to bless you, but He also wants to shape you, because what good is a blessing if it turns you away from the one who gave it? Do not despise small beginnings. Do not curse the days of scarcity. Those are the days when your faith is being refined. God is watching how you handle the little before He trusts you with much. If you can honor Him in lack, He will elevate you in abundance. Many people fail to realize that money is not just a currency, it is a test. God watches what you do with what you already have. When He sees gratitude, generosity, and stewardship, He releases increase. That's why the moment you start thanking Him for what's left, He begins multiplying what's coming. You may say, "I have nothing left," but God can bless the little that remains. The widow in need thought she had nothing but a jar of oil. Yet God multiplied it until her debts were paid and her household had enough to live. God can take your last and turn it into overflow. He can breathe on your small effort, your small business, your small dream, and cause it to produce beyond measure. You do not need to understand how, you only need to believe that He can, because faith is the key that unlocks what reason cannot. When unexpected funds locate you, it is never random. It is divine timing. It is the moment when your obedience meets God's mercy. It is the harvest of seeds you sowed in tears. Some of you are about to experience divine refunds. Things that were stolen, withheld, or forgotten will be returned, multiplied. God has seen the injustice, the losses, the betrayals, and the false promises. He has recorded every moment of your struggle, and He says, "I am bringing restoration. You will recover what was lost." But do not think that funds from God are only paper or gold. His funds are anything that sustains and uplifts you: ideas, opportunities, favor, peace, wisdom, and health. Money is only one form of His provision. Sometimes the most valuable fund is the wisdom to avoid a wrong investment, the insight to recognize a hidden opportunity, or the courage to take a step of faith. When God funds your journey, He doesn't just fill your wallet, He strengthens your spirit. And understand this, God never sends provision without purpose. Every blessing has an assignment attached to it. When He gives you unexpected funds, it's not just to increase your comfort, but to expand your capacity to do good. Some of you will be called to fund the poor, to feed the hungry, to help those who cannot repay you. You are being positioned not only to receive, but to become a channel of divine flow. The reason God can trust you with abundance is because He knows you will not hoard it. You will use it to uplift others. There are times when the enemy will whisper, "You are forgotten. No one sees your struggle." But he is a liar. God never forgets His faithful servants. Even if years have passed and the world moved on, God's remembrance is worth more than any man's attention. When He remembers you, things that were stagnant for years suddenly spring to life. When He remembers you, approvals happen without explanation. When He remembers you, the very people who ignored you start to look for you. Divine remembrance always carries divine reward. God is sending you into a season where favor will not make sense. The same people who once rejected you will now seek to bless you. The same systems that once locked you out will now open to you. Why? Because when God marks your name for provision, resistance becomes powerless. When He decrees a blessing, no policy, no person, and no delay can stop it. His word is final. His timing is perfect. His supply never runs dry. So lift your faith. Expect the unexpected. Walk with confidence, knowing that God has already arranged the resources. You may not see it yet, but it's already on the way. Angels are moving. Hearts are being stirred. Doors are unlocking. And your name is being mentioned in rooms you've never entered. God is aligning people, places, and opportunities to locate you. You don't need to chase. You need to trust. You don't need to beg. You need to believe. Many have lost faith because they measured God's goodness by their current bank balance. But remember this truth: the absence of money is not the absence of God. Sometimes He removes the visible so that you can discover the invisible. He wants you to depend on Him, not the paycheck. He wants you to know that He is the ultimate source and everything else is just a channel. The moment you place your confidence in the source, every channel begins to flow again. This is not a season for fear. It is a season for expectation. God is not done with you. He is about to turn your financial drought into divine overflow. Where there was lack, there will be plenty. Where there was debt, there will be deliverance. Where there was scarcity, there will be supply. The tables are turning. The heavens are opening. And the same God who fed His servant in the desert is about to feed you in your waiting. Unexpected funds are locating you because your faith has matured, your heart has been tested, and your time has come. Stand firm, stay grateful, and prepare to testify. What is about to happen will not make sense to those who doubted you, but it will make perfect sense to you because you know it was God all along. So now, as you stand on the edge of this new season, lift your eyes toward heaven and declare within your heart that God is your provider, your sustainer, and your unfailing source. And everything you have lost, everything that slipped through your hands, and everything that was delayed is about to return with increase. What seemed impossible is about to unfold before your very eyes, not because of human help, but because of divine orchestration. God has already spoken your name in places your feet have not yet stepped. The blessing has already been released. It's only a matter of divine timing before it reaches you. Do not fear the silence, for silence is often the sound of preparation. Behind the scenes, God has been positioning hearts, moving hands, and preparing doors. You may not see the evidence yet, but something powerful is forming in the unseen realm. When the appointed moment comes, what you have been praying for will appear suddenly, and you will know it could only have been God. He has not forgotten your faithfulness. Every tear you've shed, every prayer you whispered, every sacrifice you made in secret, it has been recorded in heaven. Now the winds of provision are shifting in your direction. The currents of favor are carrying blessings toward you. Funds, opportunities, and breakthroughs that were once far from you are now divinely magnetized to your life. You don't have to chase them, because when God commands increase, it will chase you. What once felt impossible will become natural. The same hands that were once empty will soon overflow. The same account that was once dry will soon carry the weight of abundance. But don't ever mistake the blessing for the destination. It's only the doorway to something far greater. God doesn't bless you just to fill your life. He blesses you so your life can pour into others. He overflows your cup so that those around you can taste the goodness that flows from Him. He lifts you higher so that you can reach down and raise someone else. Never lose sight of where it all comes from. Never value the gift more than the giver. Keep your heart humble, your gratitude unshaken, and your hands always open. For when God finds a vessel He can pour through, He never stops pouring into it. Stand firm in faith today. Speak as one who carries authority. Walk with unshakable confidence. Declare it boldly. God, I trust you. Unexpected blessings are finding their way to me. Provision is already on its way. My life will testify to your goodness. Hold on to that truth and don't allow doubt to drown it out. Because when your words rise in faith, your entire life moves in rhythm with heaven. There comes a moment in every life when the walls feel like they're pressing closer and closer, when every route you've tried ends in a dead end, and the doors you've prayed to open remain sealed tight. You've wept, you've waited, you've given everything you have. You've pushed until your strength collapsed. You've prayed until there were no more tears left to cry. Still, nothing seems to change. But listen closely, God is not finished. His silence does not mean He's said no. His delay does not mean you've lost. You are standing right at the brink of a divine turning point. And the very thing that's held you back is about to be shattered by the power of the Almighty. You might not see it with your eyes yet, but something is already shifting in the unseen. God is moving in the background, rearranging what the enemy built to trap you. The barrier in front of you is not stronger than the God behind you. The same God who split the sea for His people, who brought water out of a rock, who sent bread from heaven, is about to do something so powerful in your life that those who doubted you will have no choice but to confess God's hand was on you all along. Some of you have been standing before a wall for too long, a wall of fear, of shame, of financial struggle, of emotional pain, and you've been hitting it with everything you've got. You've tried reasoning, you've tried praying, you've tried fasting, you've tried every door, and yet it hasn't moved. But that's because this wall is not meant for you to climb. It's meant for God to kick down. There are moments in life when your effort must step aside so God's power can step in. When God says it's time, nothing can stand in His way. When He declares enough, every obstacle must bow. When He speaks, creation shifts, chains break, and walls crumble. The same voice that spoke light into the darkness is about to speak breakthrough into your situation. You've been faithful in the waiting. You've held on through the storms, and now the season is turning. God's not asking your permission. He's getting ready to kick down what's been blocking you. Don't you know that sometimes God allows the wall to stand so He can reveal His power? Sometimes He lets it seem impossible, so when it finally breaks, no one can say it was luck or coincidence. They'll have to say that was God. Because when God does it, it won't make sense. It won't follow logic. It won't fit your timeline. It will defy the odds and silence your critics. You will look back and realize that every delay, every disappointment, every moment of pain was preparing you for this divine demolition. You see, God is a builder, but before He builds, He breaks. Before He opens new paths, He removes old barriers. Before He promotes you, He exposes what's been hindering you. And that's what's happening now. You may feel like everything is falling apart, but what's actually happening is that God is tearing down the walls that have kept you small. He's breaking the limitations you've accepted. He's removing the structures that were never meant to contain your destiny. Some of you are about to see God move in such a way that it will shake everything around you. Doors that refuse to open will suddenly swing wide. People who rejected you will come searching for you. Opportunities that seemed lost will reappear, because when God kicks down what's been blocking you, nothing and no one can rebuild it again. You might be thinking, but I've been waiting so long. I've prayed for years and nothing has changed, Ma. Hear this. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean God isn't moving. Just because the wall still stands doesn't mean the cracks aren't forming. God is patient because He is precise. He doesn't just want to remove the obstacle. He wants to make sure that once it's gone, it can never rise again. That's why sometimes God lets your strength fail so you'll stop depending on what you can do and start trusting what He can do. He lets you run out of options so you'll realize that He was the only option all along. And when you surrender, when you lift your hands and say, God, I can't move this, that's when He says, now watch me. There's something powerful about that moment when you give up control. That's when the ground begins to shake. That's when the unseen armies of heaven begin to march. That's when divine power begins to descend. You may not see the shift at first, but you'll feel it deep in your spirit. You'll sense that something is about to break. Because when God steps in, He doesn't negotiate with your barriers. He doesn't ask for permission. He kicks it down. Maybe you've been blocked by fear, paralyzed by what ifs and may. Maybe you've been trapped by people's opinions, by guilt, or by a past mistake that keeps whispering you can't move forward. But God says enough. That fear that used to control you, that guilt that used to weigh you down, it's coming down. You won't need to carry it into your next season. You won't need to fight with your own strength. God Himself is about to remove it from your path. And when He does, you'll realize that the blockage wasn't just external, it was internal. Because sometimes the greatest wall isn't what's around you, but what's within you. The doubt, the insecurity, the lack of belief, those are the walls that hold many people back. But when God begins to move, even those inner walls must crumble. He restores your faith, rebuilds your courage, and reignites your vision. Suddenly, what used to intimidate you becomes an opportunity for victory. Do not underestimate what God can do in one moment. One touch, one word, one act of divine power can undo years of frustration. The same God who turned darkness into light in a single command can transform your life in an instant. What took the enemy decades to build, God can destroy in seconds. You've been thinking you're stuck, but you're not stuck. Your position? God allowed you to be surrounded so He could show His strength when He kicks down what's blocking you. You'll see why you had to wait, why you had to cry, and why you had to be misunderstood. You'll see that it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Let me tell you something. God doesn't waste pain. Every tear, every betrayal, every night you felt alone was building your spiritual strength. It was teaching you to depend on Him, not on others. And now that you've learned that lesson, God is about to move. He's about to remove every obstacle that dared to stand in his way. Because make no mistake, what blocks you is really blocking him. When you belong to God, anything that tries to hinder your purpose becomes God's problem, not yours. And when God fights for you, the outcome is already settled. There's no negotiation with divine authority. There's no resistance strong enough to stand against the Word of God. When God decides to move, He doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't knock politely on the door of your destiny. He kicks it open with divine authority. He doesn't whisper to the mountains to move. He commands them, and they tremble. What has been standing in your way for years, what has mocked your prayers, tested your patience, and tried to wear down your faith, will soon become the evidence of God's unstoppable power in your life. You see, when God moves, there is no negotiation. The forces that have tried to block you cannot resist His will. The people who thought they could keep you down will find themselves powerless against His decree. For when God says enough, the storm stops, the flood dries up, and the obstacle disappears. He does not break through walls gently. He demolishes them. And when He does, He leaves no trace of the opposition that once stood in your path. Many of you have been walking around walls that seem impenetrable. You've circled them with faith, with patience, with prayer, and you've wondered, God, how long must I wait? But understand this, every step you take, every moment you refuse to quit, every tear you cry in faith, it is shaking the foundation of that wall. You may not hear the cracks yet, but heaven hears them. You may not see the crumble, but God is weakening the structure. And when the appointed moment comes, not your moment, but God's moment, the wall will collapse in an instant. Not gradually, not partially, but suddenly and completely. Because when God decides that the time of testing is over, the time of triumph begins. That's why you mustn't lose hope in the waiting season. The waiting is not wasted. It's where God strengthens your endurance and purifies your purpose. The waiting teaches you to trust His timing, not your own. Because if the wall fell before you were ready, you might have walked into something that could have destroyed you. God holds back certain blessings, not to punish you, but to protect you. You see, sometimes God delays the breakthrough until you're mature enough to handle it. Sometimes He keeps the door closed because behind it are things that your spirit isn't prepared for yet. He's not denying you. He's developing you. And once the development is complete, He will act swiftly, and nothing, no human, no power, no obstacle will be able to stop Him. When God moves, it won't be quiet. People will notice. The same ones who look down on you will have to look up to you. The same voices that mocked your struggle will whisper your name in admiration, not because of who you are, but because of what God has done through you. Do not be discouraged by how long it has taken. God is never late. He is never behind schedule. He works in perfection, and His timing is designed not to please your impatience, but to reveal His glory. What you call a delay, God calls preparation. What you call rejection, God calls redirection. What you call a dead end, God calls the setup for a divine intervention. There are moments when God will allow you to stand face to face with what looks impossible. Not to destroy your faith, but to deepen it. Because faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. And God wants you to walk with a faith so strong that no wall can make you doubt Him again. When that wall falls, you will not only walk into new territory, you will walk into a new version of yourself. A version that no longer fears failure, no longer depends on approval, and no longer doubts the power of God. You will walk with boldness because you will know that the same God who removed that obstacle is the same God who will sustain you through the next. Some of you need to stop looking at the wall and start looking at God. Stop measuring your strength against the size of the barrier and start measuring the barrier against the size of your Creator. The wall may be tall, but God is higher. The obstacle may be strong, but God is greater. The door may be locked, but God holds every key. And when God acts, He doesn't need your logic to understand it or your strategy to support it. He simply commands it and it happens. You don't need to figure out how. You only need to believe that He will. Because faith is not about understanding every detail. It's about trusting that even when you don't understand, God does. God's power is not limited by your circumstances. He can bless you in a famine. He can raise you in obscurity. He can promote you without permission. He can make a way where there is no way. And He can turn your lowest valley into the very path that leads to your greatest victory. Some of you have been blocked by people, those who tried to sabotage your growth, who lied about you, who shut you out. But listen carefully. No one can block what God has ordained. They may try to delay you, but they cannot deny you. God will use their betrayal to prepare your breakthrough. He will use their rejection to set up your redirection. Every hand that pushed you down will one day witness the hand of God lifting you up. You've been asking God, why did this happen? Why did they turn on me? Why did this door close? And God is whispering, because I had to clear the path. I had to remove what would have limited you. I had to tear down what you were depending on so you would depend only on me. Do not mourn the walls that fall. Some walls are not your enemies. They are your deliverance. When God removes something from your life, it's because it can no longer travel with you to where He's taking you. That relationship, that opportunity, that comfort zone, it served its purpose. But now God says, it's time to move on. I am about to kick down what's been blocking your destiny. And when He does, you'll realize that you never needed those things you lost. You never needed those people who left. You never needed that approval you were chasing. All you ever needed was God. Because when you have Him, you have everything. You are about to see God move in a way that silences every doubt. He's about to make your enemies speechless, your critics powerless, and your fears irrelevant. Because when God moves, everything opposing Him must bow. Do not mistake the chaos for confusion. When the walls begin to fall, it can feel unsettling. Things shift, situations change, and life can feel unstable. But remember this, when God breaks something down, it's only because He's about to build something greater in its place. The shaking is not your destruction, it's your transformation. Every block that stood in your way was allowed by God for a purpose. It tested your patience, refined your character, and strengthened your spirit. Now that the lesson is complete, God is removing the test. He is kicking down the barrier. You've learned to pray deeper, to stand firmer, to believe stronger, and now you will see the reward of your endurance. You didn't come this far to stop. You didn't survive all those storms just to live behind walls. You were made for more. God didn't bring you through the valley to abandon you at the gate. He brought you here so that His glory could be revealed in your breakthrough. And when that moment comes, when God finally breaks the barrier, you won't have to fight for recognition or validation. You won't have to prove yourself. God Himself will make your name known where it needs to be known. He will raise your voice where it needs to be heard. He will open doors that no one thought could open. That's the kind of God you serve. A God who doesn't need permission from your past to bless your future. A God who doesn't check the opinions of others before deciding your destiny. a God who works in silence and then reveals His power in one sudden, unstoppable move. So don't give up now. You may be tired, but you're too close to the shift. You may feel drained, but you're standing in the moment before deliverance. The pressure you feel is not punishment, it's birth. Something new is being born out of this struggle. God is using the pain to push you into purpose. And when the wall finally falls, you'll understand why it had to stand as long as it did, because in the waiting, you found your strength. In the silence, you found your faith. And in the breaking, you found God. The same God who brought you through every storm, who lifted you from every pit, who guided you when you couldn't see. That same God is now standing before the wall that's been blocking you. His power is gathering. His will is forming. His voice is about to thunder. And when He moves, that wall will not just fall. It will be obliterated. What once limited you will never limit you again. What once silenced you will now become the reason others listen. What once hurt you will become the story that heals others. Because when God kicks down what's been blocking you, He doesn't just set you free. He uses you as proof that no wall can stand against His power. When God decides to move, He doesn't whisper His intentions. He shakes the very ground beneath what tried to stop you. There is a divine force rising on your behalf that no opposition can contain. The walls that have stood for years are trembling, not because of your strength, but because God has remembered you. The one who sees all and knows all has been watching in silence, preparing a moment that will change everything in your life. And when that moment comes, what blocked you will become the very testimony that proves His power never fails. You see, God allows obstacles not to defeat you, but to define you. They are not barriers meant to destroy. They are classrooms meant to teach. Every hardship, every closed door, every rejection has carried a message from heaven. Hold your ground, for I am working behind the wall. Sometimes the greatest movements of God happen in the quiet, in the hidden, in the places where you think nothing is happening. That's because God is not slow. He is strategic. He is setting the stage, arranging the right people, creating the right timing, and preparing you to handle the blessing that's about to burst forth once that wall comes down. And hear this: when God moves, He doesn't just make room for you, He makes you a sign to others. Your breakthrough becomes the evidence that God still opens ways where there are none. People will look at your life and say, if God could bring them out, He can bring me out too. That's why you've had to endure so much. You weren't just fighting for yourself. You were fighting for every person who would one day need to see that God can break through any situation. The truth is, the wall in front of you is not as powerful as the purpose inside you. You were born with something greater than the barrier you face. You were created with a destiny that no blockade can destroy. God placed within you a strength that only hardship can reveal. That's why the attacks have been so fierce. Because the enemy sees what's coming before you do. He senses that once you break through this season, you will rise with a power that can't be stopped. And so he tries to build walls of fear, of distraction, of discouragement, to delay what he cannot defeat. But what the enemy builds, God will break. What the enemy designs for your delay, God will turn into your delivery. There is something holy about reaching your limit and realizing that your strength is gone. Because that's when God steps in. That's when He says, now it's my turn. You've done all you can, and you've reached the edge of what human effort can achieve. That edge is sacred ground because it's where God shows His glory. He doesn't need your perfection. He only needs your surrender. When you say, "God, I've tried everything," He says, "Good, now watch what I can do." And when He moves, He doesn't do it halfway. He doesn't simply crack the wall or give you a small opening. When God delivers, He does it completely. He leaves no trace of the struggle. He removes the residue of pain. He restores what was lost. And He promotes you to a place where you can look back and say, "It was worth every tear, every night, every test." But hear this, before God kicks down the wall, He tests your trust. He asks, will you still praise me while you're blocked? Will you still believe when you see no change? Will you still honor me when the delay feels endless? Because anyone can worship when doors open. True faith is proven in the waiting. True faith keeps praising even when surrounded by silence. True faith keeps standing even when the wall seems taller every day. And when you pass that test, when you refuse to give up, that's when God begins to move suddenly. You may wake up one morning and realize that the battle you fought yesterday no longer exists today. The weight that crushed you suddenly lifts. The fear that paralyzed you suddenly fades. The opportunity you thought was lost suddenly reappears. That's what it looks like when God acts suddenly. God moves suddenly because He doesn't need time. He creates it. He doesn't need resources. He owns them. He doesn't need approval. He commands it. The same power that governs the stars governs your story. The same voice that calls forth the sunrise is about to call forth your breakthrough. So don't be disheartened if the wall looks unshakable. It's only standing tall because it knows who is coming for it. The power of God is not limited by what's been built against you. He can bring down what people said was permanent. He can erase what they declared impossible. He can restore what they said was gone forever. There is nothing too deeply rooted that God cannot uproot. There is no chain too thick that He cannot break. There is no wall too high that He cannot flatten. You may think your situation is unique, that it's too complicated, too long-standing, too difficult. But God laughs at impossibility. He turns impossibility into testimony. Think of the moments in your life when you thought it was over, when the door was closed, when the doctor said no, when the world turned its back, yet somehow you survived. Somehow you're still standing. That somehow was God. He was there when you thought you were alone. He was fighting for you when you had no fight left. He was keeping you when you couldn't keep yourself. And if He could do that before, what makes you think He won't do it again? God didn't bring you this far to leave you blocked. He didn't invest all that patience, all that grace, all those quiet miracles into your journey just to abandon you behind a wall. No, He brought you this far because the wall is about to fall. And when it does, you'll see why He allowed it to stand as long as it did. Sometimes God lets the wall remain so you can learn who He is. Because if you never faced resistance, you would never know His power. If everything came easily, you'd never develop faith. If the door opened on your first knock, you'd never learn to persist. The delay taught you endurance. The silence taught you discernment. The waiting taught you worship. And now, after all that training, God is ready to reveal His strength. The same hands that formed the heavens are now stretched toward your situation. The same voice that commands the wind is speaking to the wall in front of you. And when He speaks, the ground trembles. When He moves, everything opposing you collapses. You've been feeling something stirring lately, a restlessness, a sense that something big is coming. That's not anxiety, that's spiritual awareness. Your spirit can sense what your eyes can't see. You feel the shift because heaven is preparing the move. The wall is under divine pressure, and soon it will crumble under the weight of God's will. And when it does, you won't just walk through, you'll walk over. The very thing that blocked you will become the platform God uses to elevate you. You will stand on the ruins of what tried to contain you and declare, "Look what God has done." That's the nature of His power. He turns obstacles into altars, walls into witnesses, pain into purpose. But let me warn you, when God opens the way, don't look back. And when the wall falls, don't run to rebuild it. Sometimes we get so used to the struggle that freedom feels strange. Don't let familiarity drag you back into limitation. When God sets you free, walk forward with courage. Embrace the new season. Step into the space He created for you. And as you move forward, remember this: the wall didn't fall because of your strength, your cleverness, or your connections. It fell because of God's faithfulness. It fell because God heard your cry and decided now is the time. So never take credit for what only His power could do. Let your victory bring glory to God alone. The time is near when those who doubted your calling will see the hand of God upon your life. They will see doors open where there were none. They will see favor follow you in places you never expected. They will see that you didn't rise by influence but by faith. And they will know that the same God who broke your barriers can break theirs too. Every promise God made to you will come to pass. Every word He spoke in your spirit will manifest. The wall cannot stop what God has ordained. Your waiting was not in vain. Your tears were not wasted. Your faith was not forgotten. God has been watching, and now He is acting. When God decides to move, nothing can stand in His way. The same God who split the sea for Moses, who brought down the walls of Jericho with a shout, and who delivered Daniel from the lion's den, He is the same God watching over you right now. You may feel surrounded by walls, trapped behind barriers, or locked in situations that seem unchangeable. But I tell you this with all authority: when God says it's time for you to move forward, no wall, no chain, no person, no system, no spirit, and no obstacle will be able to hold you back. God is about to kick down what's blocking you. You've cried, you've prayed, you've waited, and you've wondered if your breakthrough will ever come. You've seen others move ahead while you stayed in the same place. But what you don't know is that God was preparing your path in silence. He was building your strength in the waiting, shaping your endurance in the delay, and sharpening your faith in the storm. He allowed you to face resistance not to destroy you, but to prove you. Because when He kicks down what's been blocking you, it will not just be a small move. It will be a demonstration of His power that no one can deny. Sometimes God allows the blockage to remain so He can reveal Himself as the one who removes it. You see, if the path had opened too easily, you might have believed it was your own strength that made it possible, but God allowed that door to remain shut. He let the situation look impossible so that when He breaks it wide open, you'll know beyond doubt it was His hand, not yours. God desires His glory to shine through your story. And when He moves, everything that once opposed you will have no choice but to move out of the way. There are times when God doesn't ask for approval, He takes command. He doesn't bargain with your enemies. He conquers them outright. He doesn't whisper to your mountains. He orders them to fall. When His appointed moment arrives, even the mightiest barrier cannot stand. It will collapse before His power. That's why you must stop fearing the wall that's in front of you and stop letting that obstacle intimidate you. Stop letting that delay discourage you. If you could see what God is preparing behind the scenes, you would shout in praise right now, because what seems like a wall to you is about to become a doorway in the hands of God. And let me tell you, when God kicks down a door, He doesn't open it quietly. He does it in a way that makes people watch in awe. He does it in a way that turns heads. He does it in a way that even those who doubted you will have to admit, surely God's hand is on this one. There is power in His timing. There is fire in His command. And when He decides to move, no one can stop Him. God doesn't just make a way, He becomes the way. Maybe you've been praying for a job that never came, a door that stayed closed, a relationship that broke your heart, or a future that feels uncertain. But hear me, you are not forgotten. God heard every prayer, saw every tear, and felt every disappointment. Yet He waited because He was working on the foundation. He was aligning things you cannot see. You were asking for a blessing, but He was preparing a destiny. You wanted an opening, but He was building a platform. You wanted a change, but He was creating a transformation. When God kicks down what's blocking you, He doesn't just give you access, He gives you authority. He doesn't just open a door, He hands you the keys. Because when God sets you free, He makes sure you never get trapped again by the same thing that once confined you. That's why the delay was necessary. That's why the struggle had to happen, because God was strengthening your spirit, refining your character, and teaching you to depend on Him completely. You see, God will never let your obstacle be greater than your purpose. If it's in front of you, it's because He's about to use it to reveal His power through you. The bigger the wall, the greater the testimony. The higher the mountain, the louder the victory shout will be when it falls. God is not intimidated by what intimidates you. He is not limited by what limits you. When He speaks, even the strongest resistance trembles. I want you to remember something powerful. Sometimes God will let the enemy build the wall just so he can break it down in front of him. Because when God moves, He doesn't just deliver you, He demonstrates His supremacy. He shows the world that no force, no darkness, no power can stand against His will. So don't curse the obstacle. Don't hate the season of waiting. Don't fear the closed doors, because those very things are setting the stage for a divine breakthrough. Some of you are standing in front of your Jericho. You've been walking around it, praying around it, crying around it, hoping for change. But I'm telling you, your seventh lap is coming. That moment when God says, now shout. That moment when He says, now move. That moment when He says, now it's time. When that moment arrives, every wall will fall flat. And it won't fall piece by piece. It will collapse completely. Because when God moves, He doesn't do partial deliverance. He completes the work. And when that wall falls, don't forget who made it happen. Don't take credit. Don't boast. Fall to your knees in gratitude and lift your voice in praise. Because the same God who kicked down what was blocking you is the one who will lead you through the open path ahead. He doesn't just remove obstacles, He walks with you beyond them. Some of you feel like you've been hitting the same wall over and over again, and you've tried every angle, every effort, every plan, but it still stands. That's because this is not a wall you can break in your strength. It's a wall only God can destroy. Stop trying to push it in your power. Let God take over. Surrender it to Him, and you will see what divine intervention truly looks like. Because sometimes the greatest faith is not in the pushing, but in the waiting. And in that waiting, God is working. In that silence, He is setting the stage. You may think nothing is happening, but in the invisible realm, the hand of God is moving mountains for your sake. You may not hear the sound of hammers or see the cracks forming, but make no mistake. Your breakthrough is on the way. God doesn't need noise to make impact. He can speak in stillness and split the sea. He can move in silence and shake nations. When the time is right, He will move suddenly. The same God who commanded light to burst out of darkness will command your life to shift in an instant. In one moment, everything that resisted you will crumble. In one divine breath, what blocked you for years will vanish. And when it happens, it will not just be for you, it will be a testimony for everyone connected to you. Because when God kicks down a wall, He makes sure everyone around sees His glory. Don't be surprised if some people walk away before your breakthrough comes. Don't be discouraged when the crowd thins out. Sometimes God clears the audience before He performs the miracle because not everyone deserves to see what He's about to do in your life. He removes the wrong people so that only the ones meant to witness your elevation remain. And when He moves, even your enemies will have to admit they couldn't stop what God started. You are standing on the edge of something powerful. You are closer than you think. That pressure you feel, that resistance, that heaviness, it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of birth. God is about to break something open in your life. The same hands that held you in the dark are about to push open the door of destiny. The same voice that told you to wait is about to say, go. And when He does, nothing will stand in your way. Because when God decides to move, the laws of nature bend. When He speaks, creation listens. When He commands, the earth obeys. There is no storm too fierce, no chain too tight, no barrier too thick for the power of God. The world may say it's impossible, but God says, watch me. When God is about to kick down what's blocking you, everything around you will begin to shift. You'll feel it in your spirit before you see it with your eyes. You'll sense a divine stirring, a quiet unrest in your soul, as if heaven itself is moving on your behalf. The doors that once ignored you will begin to tremble. People who once rejected you will suddenly remember you. The very situation that tried to bury you will become the ground from which you rise. Because when God moves, He doesn't just make things happen, He makes everything align in perfect order. There will come a moment when what you've been waiting for suddenly stands before you, and you will know it wasn't luck, it wasn't timing, it wasn't people, it was God. He did it in a way no one else could, in a way no one else can take credit for. And when He does it, you'll realize every tear, every setback, every sleepless night had purpose. You'll realize God was not ignoring your prayers. He was building your miracle piece by piece. You'll see that what looked like a delay was divine construction. You weren't being denied. You were being developed. So don't despise this season of stillness. Don't complain about the doors that wouldn't open. God closes doors because He knows what's behind them. He keeps you waiting because He's preparing something greater than you ask for. When God kicks down what's blocking you, it's not just to let you in. It's to remove what doesn't belong around you anymore. That obstacle wasn't just in your way, it was protecting you from premature entry. God's timing isn't late, it's perfect. And when He moves, He will do it so suddenly that you'll go from waiting to winning in one divine breath. Some of you have been asking, God, why won't this change? But the truth is, God didn't bring you this far to leave you standing at a wall. He brought you here to witness His power. That's why you can't quit now. You are one moment away from seeing Him act in a way that will silence every doubt, every enemy, every fear. You are standing at the edge of your breakthrough. That resistance you feel, It's the last push before the wall comes down. The darkness is always thickest before dawn, and your dawn is rising. When God decides to remove what's been blocking you, He won't do it quietly or secretly. He'll do it in such a way that the same people who thought it was over for you will have to watch as He lifts you higher. God doesn't hide His deliverance. He displays it. He doesn't whisper your victory. He declares it. You may have been hidden, overlooked, or underestimated, but that was only because God was preserving you for a greater revelation. When He reveals you, He will do it publicly so that His glory is seen through your story. And when the walls fall, don't rush past your gratitude. Don't forget to thank God for every blocked door that turned out to be protection. Thank Him for the people who walked away. They made room for what's coming. Thank Him for the times you were forced to wait. It made you strong enough to handle the blessing that's about to arrive. You see, God doesn't just remove obstacles to make life easy. He does it to make your purpose unstoppable. There are people who doubted you, situations that mocked you, circumstances that seemed too heavy. But God is about to flip it all in your favor. He is about to prove that no one can stop what He ordains. He is about to show you that the very thing that was meant to limit you will become the launching pad for your next level. The stone that was rolled in front of your destiny is about to be moved by His command. You don't need to figure out how. It's not your battle. It's God's. And when He acts, He does it completely. God doesn't halfway deliver. He completely destroys what hindered you. When He removes a chain, it breaks forever. When He opens a door, it stays open. When He restores, He multiplies. That's why the blessing that's coming will be greater than anything you lost. The pain will fade, but the purpose will remain. What God is preparing for you will not just bless you, it will overflow into others. You'll become the proof that faith still works, that prayer still moves mountains, and that God still reigns over all. So stand firm. Don't let fear talk you out of faith. Don't let the delay convince you that God forgot you. Every second you've waited has been building the moment that's coming. Every no you heard was pushing you closer to the yes that only God can give. You've come too far to doubt now. You've endured too much to turn back. Now, the wall that stands before you is not stronger than the God who stands with you. And when it happens, when God finally kicks down what's been blocking you, you'll understand why you had to go through it all. You'll see that He was never punishing you, He was positioning you. You'll see that the tears watered the seed of your destiny. You'll realize that the waiting wasn't wasted time. It was sacred time. God was sharpening your discernment, deepening your faith, and preparing your character to carry what's coming. You're about to walk into a season where what once resisted you will begin to assist you. The same environment that tried to hold you back will now push you forward. The same people who rejected you will witness your rise. The same doors that stayed shut will swing open wide. Because when God moves, He doesn't just change your circumstances. He changes the entire atmosphere around you. You will know that it was only God. No human hand could have made it happen. No plan could have predicted it. No logic could have explained it. And that's exactly how He wants it. He wants you to look at the ruins of what once stood in your way and say, only God could have done this. That's when the wall becomes a testimony. That's when the battle becomes a blessing. That's when your story becomes a sermon to the world that faith in God is never in vain. So stop worrying about how tall that wall seems. Don't let fear take root because of how long it's been standing. If the foundation is God's, it will never fall. But if man built it, it won't last. No matter how strong or unshakable it appears, Once God gives the word, every barrier must bow. Every obstacle will collapse, and every chain holding you back will break apart. You're standing on the edge of a moment where God's power will overturn what was once written against you. Lift your head high. Your breakthrough isn't a fantasy. It's a divine declaration. God has spoken, and when He speaks, His word cannot fail. You have not been overlooked. You are not stuck. You are not done. You are being prepared for a holy shift. The wall is coming down. The door is opening wide. The path ahead is clearing. God is about to break through every block that stood in your way. And when He moves, you will rise, free, favored, unstoppable, and fully covered beneath His mighty hand.